Hello, and welcome to the State Energy Planning Board's hearing on the draft State Energy Plan. My name is Nora Madonic, and I lead Arch Street Communications, which is a firm that is assisting the State Energy Planning Board with managing these public hearings. Let me begin by thanking the Department of Environmental Conservation for generously hosting this public hearing. I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Non-English language support is available at this hearing. For those who are joining in person, American Sign Language, or ASL, can be viewed on the monitor, and Spanish support will be located in the back of the room. If you need help with Spanish, could you just stand up for a second and show your tag? Please find a team member with a staff tag, and they will help you get settled. For those of us who are joining us by webcast, to enable language translation, just click on the CC icon on your monitor and then select the closed caption language you prefer. There are about 30. ASL will be featured on a separate camera angle throughout the entirety of the hearing. Now I'll turn things over to Chair Harris.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it on? Test, test, test. It doesn't feel on. Okay. Welcome. I'm Doreen Harris, President and CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, or NYSERDA. I'm chair of the state's Energy Planning Board, and we're thankful for each of you coming out today to provide comments on the draft State Energy Plan, which was issued on July 23rd, 2025 for public comment. This hearing is being recorded and will be professionally transcribed and included as part of the official record for the State Energy Planning Board as we seek to finalize the State Energy Plan. I'm joined here today by a number of members of the State Energy Planning Board. I'd ask that they introduce themselves now.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Lefton. I'm the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and we are happy to host today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Rich Dewey. I'm the President and the CEO of the New York Independent System Operator.
I'm Richard Ball, Commissioner, New York State Department of Ag and Markets. So look forward to listening to what you have to say.
Thank you. And you can see on the slide the other members of the State Energy Planning Board. Certainly, we've all been invested in this process for well over a year and are, as we said, happy to hear from each of you today. So I'll begin today by providing some background on the State Energy Plan and opportunities to provide comment on the draft plan. Then Carl Maas, Senior Vice President for Policy Analysis and Research at NYSERDA, will present an overview of the draft State Energy Plan. Afterward, we'll talk through hearing logistics, including how you can comment at tonight's meeting. This should all take about 10 minutes. The rest of the time will be dedicated from here to hearing from each of you. So I'll transition now to background on the State Energy Plan. The State Energy Plan provides broad policy direction that guides energy-related decision-making for the state of New York through 2040. The plan includes an outlook with recommendations for meeting future energy demands that prioritize an energy system that is reliable, clean, affordable, while supporting economic development, equity, and a healthier environment. And it certainly does build on the significant progress that our state has made in advancing clean energy and climate policies for many years. The State Energy Planning Board issued a draft State Energy Plan on July 23rd, 2025, and we certainly do encourage New Yorkers to provide comments, either in a hearing like this or via written comments as well. We will use this input to develop a final State Energy Plan that we are aiming to finalize by the end of this year. This is the fourth of 10 hearings that the State Energy Planning Board is holding. You can see on the slide other opportunities to provide comments as well. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to Carl Maas to provide the overview of the draft plan's broad goals. Carl.
Wonderful. Hopefully that's on. You all can hear me. So thank you, Chair Harris, and thank you everyone for coming today. It's great to see such a full house. We're really excited, and I know the board is excited to hear from all of you. So I'm just going to be brief and give you a little bit of an overview of the plan, and then turn it back to Chair Harris. Okay, so as Chair Harris noted, the energy plan serves as an opportunity to take stock of our progress, calibrate the state's energy projections considering economic and political conditions, and focus our vision on the 15 years ahead. I'll begin by orienting you all to the draft plan. The draft release for public comment consists of 2 volumes. First, there is the summary. It provides an overview of our energy system today. It provides a broad planning goals and summarized findings and recommendations from subsequent plan chapters in Volume 2. Volume 2 consists of the topical and analytic chapters listed here. We have also developed and released 6 fact sheets on key plan topics. And all of this is available on the Energy Plan website, which those of you online, we should be dropping that into the chat. And if those haven't seen it, please come see one of our staff. Okay, so our approach to this plan has been to focus on the following overarching goals. First, to ensure a reliable, resilient, and clean energy system. Second, to ensure energy affordability and an equitable access for all New Yorkers. To drive economic development is our third goal. And fourth is to advance energy technology innovation. And finally, fifth is to continue progress on economy-wide deep decarbonization. I'd like to spend a little time talking through each of these. So the State Energy Plan puts forth policy considerations to ensure that our energy system can deliver abundant, reliable, resilient, and clean energy for New York. We will achieve this by maintaining a diverse mix of both supply resources and infrastructure. Diversity in our energy resources allows the state to meet our energy needs while minimizing the potential impacts of energy supply disruptions and price fluctuations in any given market. Substantial investment will be needed to modernize aging infrastructure, address hazards, and support economic development. And this is true for every energy pathway that New York could walk down. I also would like to note that we are in a time of great uncertainty in the energy sector. The analytic modeling conducted for the State Energy Plan reflects multiple scenarios to provide insights on a range of possible outcomes. So second, the plan considers affordable energy and broad access to bill-reducing energy efficiency and clean energy choices as essential for an equitable energy transition and to New York's continued prosperity through advancing community and economic development. Even as we know that the average New Yorker spends less on combined transportation and household energy expenses than the average American, as shown in these charts, we know that we need to continue to focus on further progress in energy affordability. And advancing equity in our energy and climate actions means that New York is working to ensure that all communities, and especially people within disadvantaged communities, will benefit from the state's clean energy transition. I note that federal policy and financial support have been critical to energy affordability. We therefore will need to continue to assess the evolution in federal policies over time and understand how they can impact our projections over the next 15 years. Access to reliable and affordable energy is essential to attract and develop new strategic industries in New York, as well as to maintain existing industry. Our strategic industries like semiconductors and agribusiness have large energy needs and require access to reliable, affordable energy and long-term energy cost stability. As such, New York can promote economic development by meeting the needs of large energy users and investing in infrastructure and programs that can attract new industry, including clean energy leaders. Our fourth goal is innovation. We see the advancement of energy innovation as a critical tool to enable New York's energy transition. Innovation can help reduce the cost of and increase the diversity of energy technologies and services, whether by investing in emerging technologies in New York or by bringing existing technologies from outside the state to our markets. Clean energy faces particular external headwinds from both economic pressure and a shift in the federal government's priorities. Continued progress towards decarbonization and a clean energy economy requires a sustainable financial footing, further policy action, and new technologies. As the federal context continues to shift, the Energy Planning Board stresses the need to be clear-eyed about the timeframes that are realistic. And with that, I'll pass the mic back to Chair Harris. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. As we turn to the public hearing, I would like to start by asking Nora to please ask the elected officials that are here in the room representing the State Assembly and Senate to provide feedback before we turn to the public comments. Nora?
Thank you, Chair Harris. I'm going to recognize the three elected officials. Senator Pat Fahey. I think everybody will be fine, Senator.
Okay, don't get me in trouble there.
Could you give the senator a mic, please? Thank you.
Am I standing?
You're fine.
I am fine, okay, thank you. When I have my back to everybody, good evening and thank you. I'll stand off to the side here so that I'm not looking. Yes, Senator Pat Fahey, pleasure to be here. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, all the members of the Energy Planning Board. Thank you for having me here tonight. Just wanted to give some very brief comments on this draft energy plan. Needless to say, it's comprehensive. There's impressive pieces of it, and I look forward to working with each of you as we continue to aggressively roll out our energy future. I want to particularly commend you on the affordability pieces, the reliability and equity as the center of our clean energy future. And I am particularly here tonight to say that I am proud as a New Yorker that we are moving full speed ahead on our energy investments and our energy work at a time when we are running into such headwinds, not really intended, but pun intended, I guess, but such headwinds at the federal level, particularly given the rather stunning cutbacks from the Trump administration with regard to energy, let alone a host of related investments. So I commend the governor, and I commend all here for, again, doubling down on that. I'm also encouraged by the recognition that affordability must go hand in hand with decarbonization, and that we acknowledge the energy burdens that are increasing, particularly on our low and moderate income households, as well as our disadvantaged communities. So it is important that we put equity at the front and that we try to bring down those costs and ensure that all New Yorkers can benefit in this transition. I'm trying to be brief and just run through a couple of my comments. While we modernize our aging grid and planning system, we know that we must be able to withstand extreme weather, the growing electricity demand, as well as the cybersecurity risks. Again, I applaud that commitment. I'm also pleased to see that the plan is affirming the value of what our existing nuclear generation. I remain open to hearing more, to learning more about the potential role of new nuclear technologies, and again, look forward to working with you on those, a number of those proposed investments. The fact that nuclear does have zero emissions and hopefully some reliable baseload power are really important as we look forward to 2040 and beyond. It is important that our grid remain not just reliable, but clean and dependable. Finally, the emphasis on workforce development. I was just at Hudson Valley Community College this morning, but workforce development, innovation is exactly what we need to stay competitive. Already, as you know better than I, there are already 300,000 New Yorkers employed in the energy sector, especially, and many of these are very, very high-paying jobs. In short, I think the draft plan does set a strong course on jobs. It's forward-looking and helping to secure our energy future despite what we see elsewhere. So I welcome the continued collaboration and working with all of our agency partners, with industry, as well as the community as we work to achieve our climate goals. And yes, I know those have been more difficult. I understand there's, possibly more challenges ahead on some of those goals, which are addressed in the plan, but I think we're still on top of many of them, and I'm willing to work with you as we modernize our infrastructure. Again, I appreciate this time and appreciate whoever I may have bumped as another elected official. So thank you, appreciate your time and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fahey. I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Assemblyman.
Hi, Pat, don't worry, you didn't bump me, we're good. First, thank you, the members of the Energy Planning Board. President Harris, good to see you again. This is my third hearing I've been to. I just want to recap quickly some of the things I mentioned, and I know you received a letter from our Senate and Assembly Minority Conferences today requesting 4 additional in-person hearings: the North Country, Southern Tier, the Mohawk Valley, and Central New York. Given the far-reaching impact of the energy plan and the energy policies that are being advanced in the legislature, these regions and the families and businesses deserve an opportunity for an in-person hearing, come talk and share their views with you. And also, as part of that letter, we asked for an additional 90-day comment period to weigh in on the plan. We think that's the best thing to do, to give more open discussion. The other thing I mentioned briefly, too, that I'll talk about is I talked about reliability at the last hearing, and Mr. Dewey knows a lot about this, given the short and long-term red flags that the NISO has put out about our reliability factors. And given the safety valve in the CLCPA to ensure affordable or to ensure reliable energy, we think there's certainly rationale to justify a pause in the delay in the implementation of this until the resources that are going to be those resources of the future, the dispatchable emission-free resources, are identified and developed, because we all know they aren't identified and developed yet. So let's make sure we're carrying that message to my colleagues in the legislature. But today I wanted to briefly talk about affordability. We know the overall plan from the estimates from the comptroller, from the Climate Action Council, over $250 billion, and we all know it's going to be more than that. Your plan calls for $120 billion with no action, increases of 2 to 9 up to 35% for full net zero generation. That's an increase of more than $500 per family. That's on top of the $600 increase that National Grid customers are getting right now. That's on top of the increases they got before this, and on top of the increases they're going to get after this, because we know it's going to continue to increase to pay for these green energy mandates. We know that July 2023, the PSC passed $43 billion in future ratepayer increases to pay for the green energy mandates. Affordability is being lost. In the Cap and Invest plan, former Commissioner Sagos identified if that will increase prices at the pump for New Yorkers 62 cents a gallon and natural gas home heating costs by 80%. Keeping in mind that to convert your home over from natural gas to full electric would cost more than $30,000 to $50,000 for homeowners as well. And also to keep in mind, the residential electricity rate in 2019 before the CLCP was 17 cents per kilowatt hour. Now it's 25 cents per kilowatt hour. That is 40% higher than the national average. Everyone talks about affordability. Unfortunately, the policies that keep getting implemented on many of my colleagues in Albany does not prioritize affordability or reliability. We will continue to talk about it, and we urge you as part of this plan to share with the legislature. Mr. Dewey, I know you talk about reliability. Reliability and affordability must be a paramount, not just green and reliable, or not just green and renewable. And there's some of this green stuff is not as green as it's being advocated for. So for that, let's have more transparency. Let's have more openness. Let's talk about the who, the what, the when, and where, and the why, and let's have transparency and openness with the public. And be honest, if this is the right way to go, let's talk to them about how much this is going to cost them instead of delay letting them know, because this is a runaway train heading down the tracks, and the public just has no idea. And thank you, and I will see you next week in the Hudson Valley.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And Assemblyman Scott Bennett, please.
My colleague just touched on the 2 main issues regarding energy: affordability and reliability. Anybody who has an elderly parent or who deals with people who are elderly, who are on fixed incomes, knows the rising costs of electricity are damaging their quality of life. Similarly, our farmers. I'm in an agricultural district. I've gotten calls where electricity costs have doubled, and people are wondering what they're going to do to stay in business in the farming community. Many people are leaving our state. We lead the country in out-migration, and by putting more costs on people, it's going to be a negative impact on people wanting to stay here. People like my kids who want to build a house and buy a house and do all those types of things, and now have to go and handle increased costs involved with that. So for me, I think as a businessman, that's what I really am. I'm an assemblyman, certainly, but I'm also a businessman, and I believe in a buffet of energy. I believe in using all of the tools that we have in our toolbox and not damaging our grid and not being able to give people what they need, which is reliable, affordable service.
Thank you. Okay, as Chair Harris said, all the input that we received today will be entered into the official record and reviewed during the development of the final plan alongside written comments. This hearing is being webcast, recorded, and transcribed as part of the official record. Please note, the purpose of tonight's hearing is to hear from the public. It is not an interactive discussion. No comments or questions will be addressed tonight. We will hear a diversity of viewpoints, however. We'll hear from commenters you may agree with and some that you may not agree with. We encourage you to please listen to everyone respectfully and hear all points of view. I'm going to go over the logistics for commenting and then we'll get started. I do want to tell anyone who wants to leave around 6 o'clock, the front doors will be locked and alarmed, and so you must leave through the back doors. You go right into the lobby and go straight through the doors there. Yeah. So each commenter will have 2 minutes to speak. If you're using an interpreter, you will have 3 to allow for translation. Interpretation, again, is available for in both American Sign Language and Spanish in the room. We're going to first hear from those who pre-registered to comment. After that, and if time allows, we will call on those who registered today to comment when you got here. Throughout today's verbal comment period, we'll also display a slide that has alternative ways for you to submit a comment, in case you'd prefer to submit it in writing, or you don't have a chance to finish your comments and would like to submit the rest of them in writing. Okay, when you came in tonight, if you registered to speak, you were given a 3x5 index card that had a, did you want to? Yeah. That had a letter on it for a group, A, B, C, D. When I call your group number, your group name, your group letter, I'll ask you to come down to the front of the room where we will have a facilitator, and our facilitators tonight are Susanna and Hannah, and they will be at the front of the room. And if you'd line up behind the mic, we'll get started for your group. If for some reason you're unable or choose not to walk to the microphone, just raise your hand if it's your group, and one of the facilitators will bring the mic to you. When it's your turn, please hand your index card to the facilitator who's holding the mic. They will read your name aloud, and when you're ready to begin, we'll start the timer for 2 minutes. The facilitator will hold the mic for you at all times. At about 30 seconds, the facilitator will lean over and give you a 30-second warning that your time is about to expire so you can wrap up. When your time is up, we'll need to move on to the next speaker. We have many people here tonight who would like to speak. If you don't have a chance to finish, we will encourage you to submit your comments in writing. Okay, let's get started with Group A.
Bob Cohen.
Okay. Thank you. As was just said, my name is Bob Cohen. I'm an attorney and the policy director for Citizen Action of New York, a multi-issue statewide policy advocacy organization. Given that I only have 2 minutes, I'll say that I will submit more elaborate written comments. First, I'm utterly stunned that the draft energy plan does not significantly address how the state will comply with the greenhouse gas emission reduction limits in the CLCPA, a clear violation of the statute. Among the most important recommendations that should be included in the energy plan are year-by-year declines in emissions for gas and all other major sectors of the economy as specified in the CLCPA. This deficiency is yet another example, I'm afraid to say, of the Hochul administration's failure to seriously and strongly implement the CLCPA. The most blatant example of this is that DEC has failed to issue regulations due 22 months ago to ensure that the CLCPA's greenhouse gas reduction targets are met as explicitly mandated by the statute. Second, it is also astonishing that the draft energy plan incorporates Governor Hochul's June so-called direction that NYPA develop at least 1 gigawatt of new nuclear. This is unacceptable, given that the state has admittedly failed to address numerous issues that the CLCPA's scoping plan said were necessary to address before the state could expand nuclear. Third, the plan should include a commitment to institute a cap and invest system, I should say the governor's proposal, not ours, and other recommendations to generate the billions needed annually to achieve our state's necessary transition of fossil fuels. It is not enough for the draft plan to acknowledge the energy affordability challenges faced by average New Yorkers. Instead, you should include a detailed plan how to subsidize heat pumps and other steps that will allow average consumers to affordably transition to renewable heating and cooling and green transportation. Thank you, and I will once again elaborate on my comments in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from Group A? No? Group B?
Lauren Kirkwood.
Hello, my name is Lauren Kirkwood, and I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club. We have a federal government which is undermining decades of work to get us to renewable energy, and it's terrifying. I'm scared for myself, and most importantly, I'm scared for my kids and all our kids. And I need to know that right here we've got some control over what's going on, and that New York State is going to do what it set out to do when we passed our climate law in 2019. We need to get to at least 70% renewable by 2030. The draft state energy plan is failing to articulate a strong enough vision for advancing renewables, and it does not incorporate the recommendations of the scoping plan. Why not? Not only is it poor policy, it's unlawful. It's going against our own climate law. We have a great scoping plan whose goal is to implement strong, immediate, clean energy action. So what are we waiting for? New York needs to stop backpedaling on this commitment. I need to know that the state that I'm proud of, a state whose power authority has always been a national leader, is going to act and not just give lip service to this climate emergency. Our energy plan needs to stop kowtowing to the oil industry and its cronies. Our energy plan needs to move us forward into a fossil-free existence now. We need to have a full-scale commitment to renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Finneran.
Our house is on fire and flooding at the same time. Renewables are doable in New York State. If expanded regarding geothermal and hydroelectric innovations, along with citing solar and wind in more creative ways, we can meet the capacity regarding the CLCPA. Considering citing, I would love to see a mandate like France, which has every parking lot over a certain size has solar fields installed, maybe some wind turbines. Also, more sightings on brownfields, vacant lots, and every single rooftop possible. Solar industry officials say they find it easier and less expensive to install on farmland and green fields. But the solar industry's profit base can't control what New York State needs to do, and the solar industry has to get on board regarding other sightings. And rural protests regarding ORIS aren't unrighteous when little is done in urban settings regarding sightings. Remember, every old tree taken down is a huge carbon sink loss that can't be restored with new growth. The energy plan as a whole is insane. To promote natural gas and nuclear to the degree suggested is giving us a choice between cooking slowly or quickly. Nuclear is not affordable, not clean, not safe, and the waste issue especially is untenable. Not mentioned much is the waste and enriched uranium transportation issues cross state and country, especially considering potential train accidents, think Lake Lock Megantic in East Palestine, Ohio. Suggesting expanding on natural gas in New York State proves how insane this plan is. The evidence has been overwhelming that CO2 and methane are destroying us. Have you no concern for the climate catastrophe, or is it a lack of true understanding? Not getting it or not caring, not sure which is worse. Our house is on fire and flooding at the same time. Your plan will make it happen quicker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith Shue.
Hello, Keith Shue, New York Energy and Climate Advocates. I'm an environmentalist. I stood side by side with activists here in opposition to fracking and fossil fuels, but I'm also an electrical engineer who knows something about the grid. We strongly support the nuclear chapter of this plan and applaud its inclusion. We are concerned by your additional actions pathway, which suggests that New York could have a zero-emission grid by 2040 or 2045, with intermittent solar and wind generating up to 140 terawatt hours annually, buttressed by just 1 terawatt hour of battery storage and merely 1 terawatt hour of gap-filled deeper backup. There's no way that's going to work, not in a real grid. Interestingly, it also adds about 7 gigawatts of new combustion, suggesting that those new plants might burn hydrogen. When backup is needed a lot more than your models predict, they'll be burning fossil fuels, and I think you know that. We believe this energy plan needs to be as honest as our governor, who has correctly and directly said that without additional reliable high-capacity factor nuclear power, we're going to keep burning gas. She's right, and it's just time that we say that. Yes, nuclear has upfront cost and takes time to deploy, but without it, we will never have a zero-emission grid. However, let's not think of nuclear as something we need to accept as a lesser evil. It actually is a great first choice. Nuclear power is not only carbon-free, it also has the smallest physical footprint and the smallest requirement for mined materials of any energy source, including solar and wind. Spent nuclear fuel is compact and contained. It can even be recycled. As an engineer, I support nuclear because it's needed. As an environmentalist, I support nuclear because it tackles climate change without destroying nature. In 2022, NYSERDA found in its analysis for the scoping plan that New York could actually benefit from 4 gigawatts of advanced nuclear, so let's aim for that. Please do some realistic modeling and listen to Governor Hochul, who has been more honest than anyone about how vital nuclear power is to our climate, our economy, and our future. Nuclear means abundant energy, and with abundant energy comes the ability to do abundant good for humanity. So let's do abundant good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Group B? No? Okay, Group C.
Ralph Zoller.
Good evening. I'm Ralph Zoller, Local 798. I would like to thank the New York Energy Planning Board for letting me speak. As the power sector evolves to meet the escalating energy needs of New Yorkers, homes, industrial, and data centers, natural gas remains a critical component in ensuring reliable, efficient, and sustainable power generation. With capacity to support New Yorkers' needs, growth, and required reliability while complementing renewable energy sources, positions natural gas as a vital element in shaping New York's industrial future. Natural gas is essential for maintaining New York's grid stability and preventing outages, and most of all, enhancing United States energy security. As technology ramps up on renewable clean energy and through a diverse mix of energy sources and supply infrastructure, natural gas will maintain as a pillar in the energy market while supporting energy efficiency and load flexibility. With the lack of infrastructure in New York, there is thousands of tankers going up and down the interstate, along with rural roads, transporting and delivering not-so-friendly fuels to end users. With this taking place, there is a risk of accidents or environmental catastrophe. Natural gas can continue to support prosperity, community, and economic development, along with affordability. This has been proven in other parts of the country. By having large amounts of clean energy available, New York will attract new industrial, which will invest in workforce development, high-paying jobs with good benefits and retirement for New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alicia Artesa.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Janae Artesa, and I'm the director of the New York Offshore Wind Alliance. NIOA consists of a broad and diverse coalition with the collective mission to promote the responsible development of offshore wind in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of New York State. NIOA greatly values the work that NYSERDA has already done to evolve offshore wind solicitations, de-risk projects, and make the state a leader in renewable energy development. While the offshore wind industry is facing significant uncertainty in the U.S. market, we strongly recommend that New York remains steadfast in its commitment to developing 9 gigawatts of offshore wind to support its climate goals and reliability needs. Offshore wind is the only feasible and affordable technology to provide utility-scale power generation, specifically to downstate New York. New electricity generators are necessary as existing generators retire and demand continues to grow. In addition, offshore wind is uniquely situated to serve the largest load centers in the state, where there are also significant land constraints. Offshore wind offers price stability for the long term. These prices are comparable to other technologies while bringing significant external benefits. Most notably, we found that if all New York's contracted offshore wind projects had been online, ratepayers would have saved $77 million in electricity prices in one cold winter month. Finally, New York is home to America's first commercial-scale offshore wind farm, South Fork Wind, which currently powers 70,000 homes on Long Island. During the first half of 2025, South Fork produced electricity 92% of the time, which offers electric grid flexibility and brings down prices. In conclusion, it is paramount that the state uses this time to rebuild its offshore wind procurement process to ensure future solicitations alleviate the significant risk offshore wind developers face, focus on flexible contracting to guarantee adaptability to the ever-changing landscape, and prioritize thoughtful planning for transmission upgrades that ultimately saves ratepayers money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken Polkalski.
Well, good afternoon, Brett. Thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate this opportunity and the limited time we have today. I represent the Business Council of New York State. We have over 3,500 businesses across New York. Our membership includes gas and electric utilities, electric power generators, including renewable developers. But the vast majority of our members are energy consumers. So we have a large and diverse membership. We will be submitting comments, as you can imagine. Those comments are likely to cover a lot of ground. We really appreciate all the work that's gone into this plan. I just want to offer a couple of initial observations today. You know, a lot of the focus, I think the public focus so far has been on the discussion about projected failure to meet the 2030 goals of emission reduction and renewable energy. You know, I think people who've been in this process have seen the data and trends. That's not a surprise. But even so, I think we have to recognize that New York State is still well ahead of most states in terms of its carbon and energy efficiency, and that's been the case for a number of years. I think it's important that the draft plan notes that if we use the more conventional global warming 100 potential calculation, we would likely meet our 40% by 2030 reduction goals. The point is that New York State has and will continue to make progress towards a cleaner economy and a cleaner energy grid. But we do think, given the massive changes in the economy and in federal policy since adoption of CLCPA in 2019, we do need to reassess. And it's not giving up on our goals, but is reassessing and fashioning a workable, affordable path forward. And we think that's essential. We're very pleased to see the plan talk a lot about cost and affordability. We think there's more work that needs to be done. I think it's intriguing that both the scoping plan and the draft energy plan talks about how a large share of the cost of transition can be accommodated by shifting expenditures within the energy sector. I think the final plan should be more detailed and more specific how we see that's happened to date and how that may happen in the future. I think that could go a long way to massaging some of the concerns about
your time
future costs.
has expired.
Thank you.
Would you please submit the rest of your comments in writing?
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Diana Michelson.
Hello, my name is Diana Michelson, and I'm currently a junior studying healthcare policy with a minor in Russian at Cornell. I'm also the co-founder of Cornell NICE, the Nuclear's Clean Energy Initiative, and it is the first pro-nuclear student advocacy group at Cornell. And quite frankly, I'm not here to discuss the need for clean, reliable energy. I think that's a given. In my hometown of Long Beach, California, sea levels are expected to rise by 2 feet by 2050 and by 7 feet by the end of the century. This is dire, and I've been told that my entire life. I've been told that we need to take action. So that's why, first and foremost, I would like to commend New York State for taking action to generate more clean energy. More so, I'm especially thankful to see that New York is discussing additional nuclear facilities. And trust me, I understand it's not an easy topic to bring up. But with that said, nuclear energy is by far the cleanest, least land intense, most reliable and efficient energy source. Our energy demands are growing. In New York alone, electricity demands are set to increase by 25% by 2040. And don't get me wrong, I love wind, I love hydro, I love solar. But simply put, these sources are not enough to continue to meet our energy demands sustainably. The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. We need nuclear energy as a backbone, not as a backup, to our energy systems. So once again, thank you so much for beginning these discussions, and we're already super excited by the prospect of a 1 gigawatt nuclear energy development. But still, that's not enough. So so why not make it 4 gigawatts? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in Group C? Group D?
Juliana Strobeck.
Hello, I'm Juliana Strobeck, here with the Sierra Club as a volunteer. I'm from Richmondville, New York, but I'm currently attending college in Albany at Russell Sage. I believe your plan is incredibly lacking and won't reach the standards it's meant to by 2040. The failure of the state energy plan to incorporate the recommendations of the scoping plan is not merely poor policy, it is also unlawful, as the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act mandates that the state energy plan reflect these recommendations. As the federal government significantly continues to undermine climate and environmental protections and laws, New York needs to stand up for its citizens and for this country and become a leader for other states. In my hometown county of Schoharie, we've experienced plenty of climate disasters, the biggest being Hurricane Irene, which hit in August of 2011, destroying most of Schoharie and leaving 75% of homes unlivable, which is devastating for a town of only around 900 people. After that storm hit, just a week later, Tropical Storm Lee took another devastating toll on the already traumatized residents. This was a rare occurrence and can easily be a cause of increased climate change, and we've seen this many places. And that was over a decade ago. What could happen to residents now in New York? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mark Schaefer, Albany, for People of Albany United for Safe Energy. I moved to Albany in '85 and only stayed through the first winter because I had studied energy policy in grad school and knew that the climate would warm. The crisis is now accelerating, shattering records, and delay only increases the risk. We can't afford not to hit CLCPA targets, which are not a suggestion but the law, preferably IPCC targets. Prevention saves money. The faster the transition, the more we save. And New York must lead because the greatest source of hot air now is the White House. The cost of overheating, estimated by Bloomberg for 1 year, was $1 trillion. I have the note to the study in my written comments. Climate Action Council estimated net savings over cost of at least $115 billion, but the cost of delay is much greater than when that report was issued. Total cost of solar, wind, efficiency, and storage are already much lower than fossil energy and continuing on a downward trajectory. And storage will ensure reliability. You can read all about it in Bill McKibben's new book. Polluters should pay through a well-designed cap and invest program. We met JFK's national goal to put a man on the moon in a decade. This is a mission to planet Earth, a rescue mission. As they say at NASA, failure is not an option. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lydia Miner.
Sorry, thank you. Hi, my name's Lydia Miner. I'm here representing Sustainable PR this evening, a communications firm focused on building relationships between energy developers and communities they serve across New York State. Over the past 3 years, our team served over 40 solar and storage projects across the state, and we have firsthand experience with the public's lack of understanding about the state's energy plans. The core issue in our minds is reactive rather than proactive communications from the state. We have found that communications are being we found that communities are not being properly educated on why and how behind the energy transition, and they are seeing rising utility bills and feeling the burdens of project permitting in municipalities without a clear, consistent explanation from the state about the long-term benefits and challenges that have been anticipated from the start. This has created the perfect storm of widespread misinformation in our communities, blame shifting amongst state agencies and utilities. To regain public trust and ensure successful transition to renewable energy, New York State must adopt a proactive communications blueprint. This is not about holding more public comment meetings or releasing hundreds of pages of technical documents that no one ends up reading. It's about a fundamental shift in how the state interacts with its constituents. Without proactive communication, the state's energy plans will fail. Renewable energy developers are already facing extended permitting timelines, interconnection bottlenecks, and financial pressures. If public discontent and permitting opposition continue to grow, it will only jeopardize New York State's energy goals and will heighten reliability and affordability concerns that are already driving public frustration. New York State's energy transition is a shared endeavor, and it's time for the state to step up, be honest and transparent with its constituents, and put in the effort to build trust that is so vital to all of our collective success. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael Hernandez.
Good evening. Good to see you all. Michael Hernandez, Rewiring America, Electrification Advocacy Group. I think the scoping plan was, had some really great key strategies for achieving our greenhouse gas reduction goals and our clean energy goals. Really focused on the building sector, how heat pumps can really make a difference. In New York State, building sector's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, and so converting those buildings to heat pumps and electrifying those buildings will go a long way to moving us forward. And so programs like the Empower Plus program that are really important and helping low and moderate income households move forward should really be prioritized in that state energy plan. And I think also the All Electric Buildings Act, electrifying new construction should move forward timely. I think the renewable energy generating projects that are in line at the NISO should be moved through that process so that we can get that clean energy fueling those homes. And I think one of the important parts of the scoping plan and the integration plan was that when we electrify our system, our energy demand is like halved because electrified systems are so much more energy efficient. And so many New Yorkers are on fuel oil and propane and are spending a lot of their resources on fossil fuel combustion systems to heat their homes that make them sick, that makes the climate sick. And if we can provide them with, if we can provide them with those resources, like was a key strategy in the scoping plan, we can help move those households along, help move our climate along, and help us healthy. The all-above approach should not be in that scoping plan. We need to transition away to make, for all of us, for a more affordable system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Ryan.
Good evening. I just wanted to get a few quick comments out that I believe distributed solar and storage is a solution we can deploy quickly and cost effectively, and that has been proven in the past of all of the energy sectors to set sort of the lofty goals. Distributed solar was the one that hit their 6 gigawatt goal and now has its sights set for 10 gigawatts. It lowers the energy bills for ratepayers and improves energy affordability, especially for underserved communities, enhances grid resilience, and reduces reliance on peak power like natural gas peaker plants, and is one of the most, again, successful clean energy sectors, and the state should be doubling down on its growth. I'm a little disappointed that there's no representative from the PSC here tonight. I see that they're a member on the planning board, however, and I just wanted to express sort of disappointment in their decision. A few months ago, there was a hearing on what to do with the New York Sun budget. There was a $421 million surplus, and the PSC ruled that only $150 million would be reinvested back into the state solar program, and only for the statewide Solar for All program. I think that was a mistake on the PSC's part, and then they doubled down and denied a request to rehear that decision. It just kind of seems that the Department of Public Service and the PSC acted against the stated goals of the state, and kind of they said that the funding, the rest of the funding would be for affordability programs, but didn't specify what kind of programs, and they were not able to connect the dots between the distributed solar program and it delivering low-cost affordability to New Yorkers, and it was disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Group D? Group E?
John Mark Rosendahl.
Yes, my name is John Mark Rosendahl. I'm here with members of Planet Over Profit, an organization advocating for climate justice to give coming generations a shot at a livable planet. We support the New York State Energy Planning Board's commitment to reliable, affordable energy, economic security, innovation, and progress towards decarbonization and clean energy. We urge the board to keep decarbonization front and center. The climate crisis threatens everything else. Economic development, jobs, and innovation will mean nothing on a planet where billions of people are being displaced and dying in floods, fires, desertification, crop failures, and rising seas. Human civilization is only possible in a biosphere that can sustain life. We also ask you to tell Governor Hochul and lawmakers that the Williams Northeast Supply Enhancement Pipeline and the Constitution Pipeline undermine all of these goals. These projects threaten New Yorkers' pocketbooks, health, and quality of life. Any expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure, any lock-in of methane production now is ecocidal folly in this moment when science tells us we must urgently reduce fossil fuels. Our name, Planet Over Profit, says why we are here. These pipelines serve corporate profit at the expense of life on Earth. We urge the Planning Board to defend its goals and protect our children and grandchildren by firmly opposing the Williams-Neasy and the Constitution pipelines.
Thank you.
Manisha Ranefaro.
Wandakar. Today is my lucky day.
I am Manisha Rane Fondacaro, President, Soul-Led Solutions. The interconnection is the main bottleneck, preventing expansion of renewable energy. There's a simple solution, that is expanding microgrids on municipal water and wastewater treatment facilities to produce cheapest electricity and green hydrogen if the microgrid were owned by the municipality. We have in New York 3,000 such places, municipal water, wastewater, and drinking water facilities to host microgrids and conceivably provide operational reliability services to the renewable energy projects or any projects in the interconnection queue, and even revive the projects which were suspended because of the financial issues. I can share the business Soul-Led Solutions business plan if you would like. Call me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment.
Lori Wheelcock.
Good evening. My name is Lori Wheelock, and I am the Executive Director and Counsel of the Public Utility Law Project. We go by PULP for short. We are a small but mighty team of 14 that works every single day to help low-income utility customers prevent the loss of their service when they fall behind on their utility bills. And we're grateful to be here tonight, but I'm going to get very, very narrow and focus on Chapter 6 and the recommendations involving creating resiliency hubs. Something that we hear on a regular basis from the people who call us is they're worried about how their service will be in a year, in 6 months. They're worried about winter, and they're worried about reliability along with affordability. I like that plan, the section in Chapter 6 that talks about the resiliency hubs as a way to combat power outages, in particular in disadvantaged communities and those that are vulnerable to climate change. At the same time, though, PULP will be offering a number of recommendations to make this proposal stronger. The first being to leverage the existing communities around the areas targeted for the resiliency hubs, uplifting schools, senior centers, and community-based organizations that know the community and are safe spaces already. Second is to have an immediate outreach component, working with the communities, again, to let them know that the resiliency hub is coming and get their input from day one. This will build trust and also, again, that stability so that the community knows that they are in good hands while planning for power outages. The third part is to include language to serve individual or building where the energy and power can have microgrids to support, in particular, vulnerable customers. The utilities have the ability to code customer accounts, elderly, blind, and disabled, low income, and medical necessity. But one of the main things PULP has had to do this summer is file complaints with the Department of Public Service to get those codings. We call on the utilities to ease this process, make it stronger and faster for these vulnerable customers who their doctors are saying, this person needs your protection, and we're struggling to get that protection. So thank you for having us, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Isaac Silberman Gorn.
Close, but almost there. Hi there. Thanks for the chance to testify tonight. I hope to someday be as cool as Lori. The state's energy plan must align with the CLCPA and exclude nuclear build-out and pipelines. Nuclear energy is too expensive, risky, and slow to build. It drains billions that should go into clean energy and efficiency. No nuclear plant has ever been built on time or within budget, and destructive mining practices have caused irreparable harm to indigenous communities. Pursuing the NESE and Constitution pipelines is foolish and terrible politics. These previously rejected projects will raise bills, pollute our air and water, and lock us into decades of methane dependence. The Energy Planning Board has a responsibility to New Yorkers. We need bold investments in weatherization, electrification, and renewable energy. That means lower costs, less pollution, and healthier communities. Reject nuclear, reject new pipelines, and instead champion affordable clean energy. This is how we protect our communities today and secure a livable planet for future generations.
Thank you.
Ricky Gonzalez.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for holding this hearing. And I'm Rick Gonzalez. I am a member of the organization Planet Over Profit as well. And with this forum, you've already heard it a few times already, but here do speak on behalf of the proposed Williams-Nestle pipeline. And one of the things I'd like to speak on behalf of is that in the preparation of this pipeline, there was an absence of public hearing and available to comment for this. So I'd urge the board to reconsider extending an opportunities for public hearing, as this pipeline, it will be environmentally damaging, and it is imperative that we continue this. In fact, it is so imperative that
I'm sorry, could you please not, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable.
We want a future too.
Stop the Williams pipeline! No Trump 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 pipeline!
So if you can participate peacefully, we would appreciate it. We have other speakers. Do we have anybody else in Group E? No? Group F?
Ellen Montiel.
Imagine driving down a winding country road. As the road curves left, you look north and see one of the most beautiful vistas in the town of Brunswick, a picture-perfect view of rolling hills and green mature trees. You continue 2 miles down the road, getting closer to that perfect view in the hamlet of Eagle Mills, and reach the roads that border that picture-perfect hillside and include 45 homes, some of which view that hillside. Now imagine that view, with 16,000 solar panels covering 27 acres. If you're having a hard time imagining that, it's equivalent to 16,092 Volkswagen Beetles parked on a hillside. I live across the street, and that would be my view. I'm here today representing 422 people who've signed a petition opposing the project for a number of reasons, including its size, given its location in a residential neighborhood. Since the proposed project would produce only 7.5 megawatts of energy, the Model Solar Energy Law and the Draft State Energy Plan give responsibility for permitting to the local government, since it would produce less than 25 megawatts. Despite this, the solar developer states that projects such as this are entitled to a relaxed zoning standard, particularly where the local zoning regulations would otherwise require a use variance, and that a zoning board may not exclude a utility project from a community where the utility has shown a need for its facilities. The solar developer interprets this need to be the need of New York State's energy initiative to bring renewable energy projects online, not the need of the community for energy. I appreciate the opportunity to provide feedback on how this guidance is being interpreted by one solar developer. All the project documents and concerns of Brunswick residents are on our website at nosolar.mcchesney.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ethan Bodnaruk.
Hello, my name is Ethan Bodnaruk, and I'm a drinking water and wastewater engineer in Lansing, New York, near Ithaca. I've dedicated my professional life to the protection of the environment and human health. For this reason, I'm a strong supporter of nuclear energy, member of the nonprofit Nuclear New York, and founder of the Southern Tier chapter of Nuclear New York. Back in April 22, I was in Albany as part of a press event with the unions where the famous climate scientist Dr. James Hansen warned the state that it wouldn't reach its climate and energy reliability goals without nuclear. Since then, I've been encouraged that Governor Hochul has directed NYPA to build some advanced nuclear, and that the state's draft plan recently added a solid chapter on nuclear power. Now nuclear needs to be integrated into the overall study, planning, and analyses with transparency. The draft plan recognizes that we'll still be burning a lot of fossil fuels in 2040. Only with nuclear, in conjunction with wind, solar, batteries, hydrogen, etc., can we actually get off fossil fuels. Nuclear needs to be a major backbone of our future energy system and provides the greatest benefits that way, as opposed to merely serving as backup to intermittent sources. This is all the more true considering increased energy needs from building and transportation electrification and AI/data centers. There's still a lot of fear and misinformation out there about nuclear, but I'm encouraged that there's a strong federal bipartisan consensus for nuclear. Overall public opinion has moved in support of it, and more communicators and influencers are talking about nuclear in ways that connect with people. In summary, advanced nuclear is green energy for the 21st century. Let's make it a real part of New York's future. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else for Group F? Group G?
Stop the Williams pipeline. Thank you. No Trump pipeline.
Group G?
Robert Titus.
Sorry. I would like to advocate in support of nuclear power in New York State. With the state's passage of the CLCPA in 2019, it was clear to me at the time that a goal of eliminating carbon-based energy simply would not work without the inclusion and expansion of nuclear power. Such an extreme approach to energy in a cold northern state like New York is simply not feasible. The amount of additional solar and wind power sources needed to produce the energy required for all the homes and businesses across the state can only be sited in upstate New York. This says nothing about the expansion of transmission mains that will be needed to get the electricity from place to place. Such an endeavor will certainly aggravate upstate New Yorkers. In fact, many are already aggravated with the minimal amount that has been installed up to this point. And that aggravation will only increase as the easy projects are completed and wind and solar farms are forced into towns that don't want them. Due to the inherent unreliability of solar and wind power, the available kilowatts must be 3 to 4 times greater than what is needed. As such, sprawl of wind and solar farms across New York will be extensive. Add on to that factor the lack of good solar sourcing and steady wind sources in accessible locations. Regardless, a steady, reliable source will still be needed to back up the unreliable sourcing from solar and wind. This is an obvious reality already seen in New York City as the loss of power from the dismantling of Indian Point was replaced by an increase in carbon-based power. The only reliable green backup to solar and wind is nuclear. Nuclear offers the best option for clean energy production in the smallest footprint and the smallest impact on the environment. Nuclear also provides a stable source of employment to people in New York. Solar and wind parts are manufactured overseas, and their installation in the U.S. provides little benefit to the local jobs and almost no associated long-term benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evan Kumas.
Thank you for this opportunity to comment on the draft state energy plan and opening up to the benefits that nuclear has to offer. I'm a third-year student at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute studying nuclear engineering, and this past summer I worked as an intern at 9 Mile Point Clean Energy Center in Oswego County, where I was directly involved with hands-on projects that supported the safety and reliability of the site. This gave me comprehensive understanding of how nuclear power plants operate, but most importantly, how committed the people who work there are to maintaining the highest safety standards in clean energy. While learning in the classroom about nuclear is one thing, getting hands-on experience in the industry not only furthered my interest in the field, but made it clear how safe and reliable nuclear power is as a way to meet our climate goals. Though my internship lasted only a few months, what I learned was so important that I chose to be here this evening to share my testimony in support of nuclear energy. On behalf of my fellow RPI students here today, I highly encourage the Energy Planning Board to integrate more advanced nuclear energy into the document. Across upstate New York, and especially in Oswego County, I've seen a community excited about nuclear energy and the promise it delivers. More people are understanding that nuclear not only offers safe, carbon-free power, but also has the least land, material, and mining requirements of any source, letting New York respect communities while also protecting nature. Even from my home region of downstate, where nuclear power is noticeably lacking, I've seen strong enthusiasm for the industry. On top of that, tech companies such as Microsoft and Meta are recognizing the immense value in nuclear energy, investing in data centers powered entirely by clean nuclear energy. Support is here, and New York State must act upon it. By directing the New York Power Authority to build additional nuclear capacity, Governor Hochul is demonstrating bold leadership that our state needs. And as she has said, taking nuclear off the table means burning more fossil fuels. New York clearly must retain its existing nuclear and hydropower assets that have provided reliable, clean energy for decades. However, as we expand solar and wind, we must also grow advanced nuclear power to provide the balance of firm resources required to a functional grid. Let's make nuclear part of New York's future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Martin.
Hi, my name's Tom Martin, and I realize as I'm listening to all the folks speak here, I'm somewhat unique. I'm just a resident. I don't represent any group. I'm just a citizen. I'm retired, grandchildren, children that live in New York. And I took the time to come tonight because I wanted to share with this group my experience as a taxpayer and as a resident. I'm finding it increasingly difficult to pay my electric bill every month. When I built my new home 5 years ago, I put a geothermal system in, believing that it was going to save as I went into retirement. What I'm experiencing is just the opposite. I've seen my cost per month escalate in ways that I can no longer manage, and I have a pretty good retirement, but I'm fearful for the future. So what I'm asking you to do tonight from a citizen is please, please pay attention to affordability, and please use the word honestly. When I put my geothermal system in, I was told that it was going to be more efficient, that it was going to save me money. And I have to tell you, my experience has been it has not. I am spending considerably more on electricity, and now I just see a 28% rate increase approved for National Grid in the next 3 years. I don't know if I can afford that. I don't know if I can. So again, as you look at this, and I know all these groups have all these agendas they're trying to advance, and they work very hard every day trying to make sure that people hear their voice. I'm here just as a person who tries to pay the electric bill every month. It's becoming increasingly difficult for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Group G. Anyone from Group G? That was G. H.
Scott Nadeau.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Scott Nadeau. I'm the president organizer for UA Local 7 Plumbers and Soup Fitters, representing over 1,000 members across the region. Thank you to Governor Kathy Hochul and NYSERDA for considering an all of the above energy strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans to protect grid reliability and support real jobs growth in the skilled trades. New York faces urgent reliability challenges to meet rising demand and achieve our ambitious climate goals. We must recognize the essential role of decarbonized power sources, especially existing and advanced nuclear power. Nuclear is the only zero-emission baseload source that can run 24/7, keep prices stable, and sustain middle-class careers. Policymakers must act now to design the following policies into the draft energy plan as follows. Extend and expand zero-emission credit to protect existing plants while committing to site exploration for new advanced reactors. Formally recognize nuclear as zero-emission generation under the Climate Act to unlock federal tax credits and billions in investment. Use advanced act authorities, cut permitting times, and attract private sector partners for nuclear power in upstate New York. Require utilities and regional planning councils to design nuclear generation into long-term power plants alongside clean hydrogen, natural gas, and thermal energy networks. New York's nuclear plants contribute $38 billion to the economy, keep prices lower, avoid 16.4 million tons of emissions, and sustain over 14,000 jobs. The Empire State should not only protect these assets, but also move quickly to deploy the next generation of safer, smaller, and more efficient reactors. Nuclear projects create long-term middle-class careers, AI-proof careers that young people are looking for. New York's energy plan should take this into account and invest more resources into training and apprenticeship programs to accomplish a just transition with nuclear power. By deploying our most scalable tool in the fight against climate change, New York's path to a greener future will be reliable, secure, and prosperous. The men and women who work in New York's energy industry, who help keep power flowing and homes warm, are ready to work with state leaders to ensure a smooth, affordable, and reliable transition to a clean energy future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jed Prickett.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Jed Prickett. I'm here on behalf of the Alliance for Clean Energy New York. The draft state energy plan is vital towards us accomplishing the goals set forth in the 2019 CLCPA to improve public health and security by advancing towards an economy powered by renewable energy. Unfortunately, we believe that this draft falls short of the goals intended by the CLCPA. That law directed an independent Climate Action Council to create a scoping plan for New York's transition to a clean energy economy. The scoping plan was developed after extensive public and stakeholder outreach, as well as a technical analysis of pathways to meet the goals established by the CLCPA. The 2019 Climate Act mandates that the state energy plan include all elements of the scoping plan. However, this draft plan does not. The state must align its energy goals with the law. To comply with the scoping plan, we believe that the energy plan must be more emphatic and specific in its directives to state agencies so that all New Yorkers can enjoy cleaner air and better health. There will be greater cost savings for New York if the goals set forth in the CLCPA are realized. We also believe that the energy plan must double down on building wind and solar, the lower cost energy infrastructure, to bring down energy prices. Wind and solar are proven technologies with shorter construction time windows. With the federal withdrawal of financial and regulatory support and the creation of regulatory hurdles, it is imperative that New York State take bold action to guarantee security through in-state energy production and to improve public health through the electrification of buildings and transportation. The climate law mandates these actions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Rosenthal.
Hey there, I'm Michael Rosenthal, just a local financial advisor here in Albany. But I wanted to thank you, or specifically DPS, for operating the Power to Choose website, the NYS Power to Choose website. You know, for where I stand, this is the most important tool that allows New York State residents to actually shop for energy in a reliable and transparent way, and consciously pick out renewable energy sources so they can vote with their own dollars. And I just request that you do not forget to raise awareness about this website and this tool, because I'm not really a slouch, but it took me way too long to realize that this option was available to me in New York. As a consumer, every time I move to a new residence, one of the first things I do is shop around for renewable energy service companies. And I find one I can afford, and I sign up. And I hope that this is how everyone here operates. But when most people are not aware of this tool, of this website, and simply default to the regional utility company, it makes it that much more difficult to move the needle on investment in clean energy and build those economies of scale that we need. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anne Erling.
I didn't know about that website, by the way. Yeah, I'm from Albany. There's much in this draft energy plan that I'm happy to see. My main reaction is that it envisions too gradual a transition. That's not ambitious enough. I personally liken the climate emergency to a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer. In each case, time is not on one side. The response needs to be robust and timely in order to have any chance of success. We need adequate political will to do that and funding. In that light, I'm disappointed not to see New York Cap and Invest highlighted in a prominent role in this draft plan. New York Cap and Invest will generate sizable amounts of money that can be used to funnel greater speed and ambition into New York's climate response. Please highlight this in the final draft. I also didn't see mention of ending New York's obligation to serve policy. Please include this recommendation to give utilities flexibility in planning our necessary switch to renewables. I am happy to see attention to moving forward with thermal and energy networks. Please recommend aligning thermal energy network development and deployment with lead pipe replacement efforts. In cases where both need to happen in the same neighborhood, significant money can be saved and disruption minimized by aligning work in these two important efforts. We're still insulated here in New York from the deadly impacts of the climate crisis, but elsewhere people are already in its direct path, as we will eventually be too. Please do all you can in the final version of the State Energy Plan to get New York closer to meeting the statutory requirements of the CLCPA. We can manage more, and we need to manage more to protect us from the worst of the climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in group H? Your H?
Seth Madden.
Good evening. I'm the training coordinator for UA Local 7 Plumbers and Steam Fitters, representing hundreds of members across the region. Thank you, Governor Hochul and NYSERDA, for considering an all-above energy strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans to protect grid reliability and support real jobs growth in the skilled trades. New York faces growing winter reliability risks. In fact, the state's nonprofit grid operator, NYSO, warned that energy demand is growing so fast that New York's grid may not be able to keep up. Natural gas is the only available bridge that can provide dispatchable power to bolster much-needed grid reliability within a short period of time. This is why the role of natural gas must be strengthened in New York's energy plan. Specifically, the Empire State should take a bold position declaring full support for projects like the Constitutional Pipeline and the Northeast Supply Enhancement. For 15 years, those opposing these pipelines have had their way, and look at the results. New York is on the brink of blackouts, energy prices are skyrocketing, and we've lost thousands of good jobs. That's not progress, that's paralysis. This is about safeguarding health and safety, and in the deadly 2022 blizzard in western New York, dozens of people froze to death when the grid failed. Reliable natural gas infrastructure is a lifeline in winter. We cannot gamble lives on wishful thinking. NYSO, the state's independent grid operator, warns that power shortages and blackouts are a real risk. Their findings are clear. Natural gas must remain part of the plan if New York wants to keep the lights and heat on. Energy experts agree New York can transition to a cleaner, stronger grid if natural gas is treated as a stabilizing bridge. This can only happen if policymakers work together and act now to build new pipelines without delay to increase access to supply and strengthen reliability, treat the supply gap as an emergency by expediting permits for new and existing infrastructure, repower old fossil plants with modern technologies that cut emissions and extend their reliability, upgrade existing gas facilities to improve efficiency, reduce emissions, and prepare them for hydrogen blending. Direct the PSC and NYSO to plan around natural gas as a stabilizing resource for winter peaks and summer shortages. Set realistic timelines for gas to hydrogen conversions, ensuring today's investments remain useful for tomorrow's zero carbon grid. Embracing an all-above energy strategy will protect grid reliability while creating thousands of good-paying, family-sustaining skilled jobs that generate millions in tax revenue and economic growth for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Group J, Group K. I'm sorry? Well, I said I. I, Group I. Hmm? Hmm? And let me just say for folks who may be leaving, because I've seen some people leave, the front doors are locked and alarmed, and so you'll need to go out the back door. Just go to the right of the lobby desk.
William Mattingly.
You can call me Bill. My name is Bill Mattingly. I'm a native of Western New York and currently live in Corning in Steuben County. New York, I got to see this, you know. Okay. New York's climate action, the draft state energy plan appears to be more of a wishful advisory than a hard-nosed plan to quickly get off fossil fuels. The New York Climate Action Council already prepared a comprehensive scoping plan at the end of 2022. The state energy plan needs to strictly adhere to the scoping plan, and where it does not, there should be rigorous rationale for the deviation. It's the law. The draft energy plan critically contains no mechanism for funding the clean energy transition. Again, the Climate Action Council's scoping plan endorsed the use of the Cap and Invest program, and Governor Hochul pulled a ready-to-go Cap and Invest program in January of 2025. We need a solid Cap and Invest program to start as soon as practical. No more delays. In the electric sector, managing supply and demand will be tricky in this clean energy transition. Here's one small proposal. The plan should include a quick phase-out of all proof-of-work crypto mining in the state. Proof-of-work crypto mining is a huge waste of electricity since cryptocurrencies can switch to other lower energy use consensus mechanisms such as proof of stake. The number 2 cryptocurrency, Ethereum, switched to proof of stake from proof of work on their own almost exactly 3 years ago today, saving over 99% of their energy use. We should not tolerate any electricity wasting proof of work crypto mines in the state. Lastly, the world is transitioning to renewables faster than you think. I recommend reading Bill McKibben's eye-opening new book, Here Comes the Sun, regarding the draft state energy plan. We can do better and faster. Our kids depend on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Becca Smith.
Good evening. My name is Becca Smith, and I am a fifth-year apprentice at UA Local 7 Plumbers and Steam Fitters, representing hundreds of members across the region. Thank you to Governor Kathy Hochul and NYSERDA for embracing all of the Energy Above strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans to protect grid reliability and support real jobs, growth in skilled trades. Great progress is being made, and it must continue under the Utility Thermal Energy Network and Jobs Act. For example, millions in funding were secured for upgrades of the Empire State Plaza, and project labor agreements are being executed at various SUNY campuses to build thermal energy networks to reduce emissions, save water, lower energy bills, and create thousands of middle-class family-sustaining jobs. Thermal energy networks, often referred to as TENS, utilize geothermal use and wastewater heat capture to provide heating and cooling for residential homes, commercial properties, and large-scale industrial facilities without additional strain on the electric grid. If designed into new road construction projects, thermal networks could provide de-icing on a continuous basis during winter seasons, effectively reducing dependence on rock salt or brine. New York should include the following policy recommendations for the New York State Draft Energy Plan. Prioritize funding and fast-track the execution of project labor agreements across all 64 SUNY campuses in New York's highest emitting state facilities to deploy thermal energy networks as anchor projects, ensuring these campuses serve as both clean energy hubs and training grounds for the state's next generation of skilled union workers. Mandate that TENS be included in all housing developments and commercial property, transportation, and infrastructure, and the large-scale industrial facilities like semiconductor plants and high-tech data farms. Thank you.
Austin D'Ambrosio.
Good evening, my name is Austin, and I'm a fifth-year apprentice with the UA Local 7 Plumbers and Steam Fitters, representing hundreds of members across the region. Thank you to Governor Kathy Hochul and NYSERDA for considering an all-of-the-above energy strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans to protect grid reliability and support real job growth in the skills trades. NYISO Power Trends 2025 report explains that reliability risks are shifting toward the winter season, and with a growing threat to reliability being jeopardized due to limited access to dependable power. Policymakers must act now to integrate hydrogen into the state's energy framework to ensure reliability, create thousands of skilled jobs, and secure access to clean fuel. This means dedicating state support for hydrogen to sustain and expand developments like Plug Power's manufacturing presence in the capital region and Global Foundries Fab 8 in Malta. By doing so, New York can attract additional infrastructure investment, encourage companies like Plug Power to expand hydrogen production in-state, and cement hydrogen as a cornerstone of all of the above energy strategy. Some key policy directives for New York to include in the draft energy plan include the following. Encourage the New York Power Authority, the Public Service Commission, and Empire State Development to assert preemptive and require hydrogen-ready interconnect standards so New York can utilize hydrogen as part of its clean energy mix for transportation and power needs. As part of those standards, tie approvals and incentives to safety training and registered apprenticeship programs to protect the local workforce. This ensures a just transition where hydrogen-ready, CHP-ready specs improve reliability, reduce emissions, and increase union careers by scaling together at the same time.
I want to thank you for your comment. Please submit the rest in writing.
Thank you.
James Martin.
Hi. I too am not affiliated with any special interest group or anything like that. I'm just a retired New York State resident. I've been a lifetime New York resident. And I felt compelled here to come and speak because in my professional background, before I retired, I was 40 years in the planning and community development field. And I wrote a lot of plans of all types, focus plans, comprehensive plans. And I read this plan, and I gotta say, it's the very construct of the plan I think is flawed. It seems to me there's a lot of top-down planning and there's a lot of special interest involvement. And plans work best when they reflect the balance of your residency and your citizenry. And I would encourage you to get out and talk to the regular rank and file New York State resident rather than a room full of special interests like you're hearing from apparently here tonight. I think you're going to hear an entirely different picture about energy. My second thing I wanted to address is affordability. It is widely held in my field, all the work I did, that the true cost of housing affordability is a three-legged stool. It's mortgage, it's taxes, real property taxes, and energy. And we're not doing very well on the real property tax front, I can tell you that. And on energy, I encourage you to look at the idea of a balanced approach towards energy supply and not just discount natural gas or any of it. It is going to be best if you take a balanced approach because we as taxpayers don't have the luxury of having this special interest view. Don't take natural gas off the table. Let's work towards a clean, sustainable environment, but let's not rush to do it. And certainly consider the cost benefit as you do so. Thank you.
Larissa Das.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larissa, and I'm an engineering student from RPI. Firstly, I'd like to thank the policymakers here for granting students like me the opportunity to speak on the drafted state energy plan. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of familiar points tonight. You know that we need reliable, affordable, and clean energy sources to power the state of New York in the upcoming years and meet growing demands for not only residential but commercial and industrial sectors tied to new technologies and advanced manufacturing. I do want to focus on one solution that has been part of the plan but deserves a larger representation, and that is nuclear power. Right now, New York's nuclear fleet already provides a fifth of our electricity and does so year-round regardless of weather conditions. We have a source of constant zero-emission power on the grid with over a 90% capacity factor. With advanced nuclear technologies, we open the door to safe, flexible, and realistic options to meet demands while cutting emissions and supporting the state economy. Now, as a college student, I'm a part of the generation that will be inheriting our current climate issues, and we cannot afford to have an energy system where our renewables fall short. Nuclear power is stable and provides us jobs and a path forward that works well with current sources like wind and solar. New York has a chance to lead the nation by prioritizing nuclear alongside renewables at the center of our energy strategy. I am asking that it is needed to properly educate on nuclear power and further recognize it as a firm, secure, and essential choice for our clean energy future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carter Teitelbaugh.
Teitelbaum. After seeing the draft, my only reaction is we need more nuclear reactions. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carter Teitelbaum, a first-year student at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute studying nuclear engineering. I hope it's obvious there is a need to address carbon emissions and that New York must prioritize solutions that can deliver real, immediate results. For this, nuclear engineering is the solution. Wind and solar are both incredible energy sources that will play a critical role in the late future, a century from now, but they just can't meet New York's shorter-term energy needs. They are on and off, dependent on weather conditions, and require a vast amount of land or ocean to be effective at the scale we need. In contrast, nuclear power offers a carbon-clean solution that is ready to be utilized. Nuclear energy is pretty much the most energy-dense form of power generation we have. A single plant can produce enough electricity to power hundreds of thousands of homes 24/7 without emitting carbon dioxide. Being able to constantly run is essential for New York, where demand for power is high, where we can't afford to have grid instability that current wind and solar plants have, especially as we try to transition away from fossil fuels. Going back to carbon dioxide, unlike fossil fuels, nuclear plants produce basically zero carbon emissions, and unlike solar or wind, they can run nearly constantly, so they don't require expensive batteries for times when they aren't producing. By focusing on nuclear energy now, we can dramatically reduce our reliance on coal and fossil fuels, which will allow us to meet immediate carbon emission reduction goals. If we first eliminate the carbon dioxide production in our electric grid, we then can focus on making it renewable. Renewable energy will undoubtedly play a gigantic role in the many decades to come, but the bottom line is nuclear energy is the only scalable, reliable, and carbon-free option we have to meet New York's energy needs today without sacrificing our climate goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth Foster.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I'm Ruth Foster, and I'm with the Sheridan Hollow Alliance for Renewable Energy, or SHARE. Sheridan Hollow is an environmental justice community just blocks from the Capitol in Albany. It has been polluted for over 100 years by the Sheridan Avenue steam plant that heats and cools the Capitol and the plaza. The New York's Capitol building is a symbol of our state. It is also a symbol of our state's lack of commitment to the 2019 climate law. In 2020, a year after the climate law went into effect, OGS commissioned an energy plan for the plaza. Well, when that plan was finally released, the main proposal for emission reductions was to move the energy-guzzling Wadsworth lab out of the plaza. There was a vague commitment to, quote, look at, unquote, the possibility of a thermal energy network in 10 years. This board must take the leadership to protect our communities from the climate crisis. Unfortunately, the draft energy plan echoes the administration's backsliding on climate. It is shocking that the plan includes an expansion of infrastructure so that gas can remain operable to help meet our rising energy needs. And it is shocking that DEC, at the urging of Donald Trump, is considering resurrecting the NESE and constitutional pipelines. I'm a grandmother. What will we tell our grandchildren as they live through even more intense wildfires, superstorms, and floods and droughts? The state energy plan must include the immediate release of regulations that are now almost 2 years overdue. We need annual greenhouse gas reduction benchmarks and a plan to fund the transition to renewables. For example, we need a plan for each state agency. For example, the PSC must set emission reduction targets for each gas utility. NYPA must build more renewables, and OGS must transform all state buildings to renewable energy. And this should start with the New York State Capitol. Let's stop polluting Sheridan Hollow and meet our climate goals.
Kathleen Mainetti.
Thank you to the board for gathering today to discuss the New York State Energy Plan. I'm Kathleen Mainetti, a third-year nuclear engineering and philosophy student at RPI. The inclusion of nuclear energy in your proposal is an incredible milestone for a carbon-neutral New York. However, it is not sufficient to meet the needs of the 20 million individuals this board serves. The draft pathways analysis submitted for comment refers to a single nuclear facility, while in the same document acknowledging the exponential growth in energy demand. The now defunct Indian Point Nuclear Power Station produced 2,000 megawatts over 240 acres. A solar farm of similar production capabilities would require 20,000. Intermittent renewables are crucial, but not a complete substitute for the efficiency and reliability that nuclear provides. Furthermore, a single facility fails to leverage the full economic and security benefits of a robust nuclear fleet. These plants create long-term, high-paying union jobs, and unlike other clean energy sources, rely primarily on domestic supply chains, bolstering both local communities and national energy independence. To ensure grid resilience through 2040, we must go beyond one pilot plant and make advanced nuclear a cornerstone, not just a feature of our energy portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more I?
Oh, I'm sorry. J, K, anybody left? Yep.
Nicole Dillingham.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm a retired attorney. I've worked for about 20 years here in upstate New York with an organization called Otsego 2000, which is involved in historic preservation and environmental conservation. We were heavily involved in the fracking battle, and of course we're interested in energy policy as it will affect our rural lands and our historic lands. And I think as much as we talk about the technology and how best to achieve this and the planning and so forth, we forget that if we cover upstate New York with solar and wind power, number one, we won't meet our greenhouse gas reduction goals because solar and wind in upstate New York is not efficient. It needs to be backed up by natural gas. So we need the pipelines and so forth. But in addition, we will cover our beautiful spaces that we need, that we rely on for agriculture, for our history, for tourism. We will cover those with solar and wind installations. There have been families here that even spoke tonight about the impact of these solar and wind installations in their own small communities. These communities deserve to be protected. There is a solution. Yes, we use solar and wind where we can. We put it on rooftops and on brownfields and so forth. But we must rely on nuclear power as a consistent, reliable source that doesn't consume our most precious resource, which is the beauty of our upstate region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Collins.
I'm a retired professor of engineering, and I speak to you today as a resident of a small town in the crosshairs of a sprawling renewable energy project in upstate New York. My concerns center around the aggressive targets for wind and solar in the state's electrical system, and I'd like to share some of my concerns. First, wind and solar are notoriously variable and intermittent, as others have noted, which means very large numbers of solar and wind installations are required just to deliver the amount of energy in 1 year that a single nuclear plant or gas plant can deliver. Second, wind, solar, and storage consume a great deal of land per unit of energy output in comparison with hydro, gas, and nuclear. In this state, wind and solar tend to be sited close to farms and residences, obstructing scenic views, and in the case of wind, threatening neighbors with noise, flickering, and flying debris. The tips of the blades on these industrial-scale wind turbines slice through the air at speeds over 100 miles per hour, which someone seeing these things rotating at 10 RPM might not realize at first glance. On May 2nd in northern Japan, part of a 41-meter-long blade broke off a turbine and killed an 81-year-old man underneath in a 45-mile-an-hour gust of wind. Rare, but it happens. Finally, it's worth noting that the electrical grid is one of our most critical pieces of infrastructure. Our lives depend on power being available whenever and wherever it is needed. A grid with high reliance on intermittent, variable, widely distributed resources requires complex and still relatively untested hardware and software. We saw recently in Spain what can happen when things go wrong. We need a more realistic approach, one that appreciates the very real engineering and operational challenges, and by all means do not discount the voices of local residents who wish to protect our beautiful landscapes from the ugly sprawl of black panels and gigantic rotating machinery. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ronan Hurd.
I am a sophomore nuclear engineering student at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute with a focus on nuclear waste solutions. I would like to begin by admiring the dedication to clean energy presented in the draft document. Now more than ever, with the increased energy demand, it is important to implement a clean energy system. I'm here to express my deep support for existing and advanced nuclear energy as a carbon-free source of power. Nuclear power is the foundation we need to carry the rise of clean energy. It is not only the most reliable source of clean energy, but it's also the most space and fuel efficient by a wide margin. A diverse array of clean energy sources is important for a healthy energy grid. Make no mistake, I strongly support wind, solar, and energy storage contributing to a cleaner grid. However, we cannot rely on other sources the way we can nuclear. Sources like wind and solar alone cannot support the baseload demand we need to support New York because of the amount of energy they produce is based on outside conditions and they require a lot of space. My high school physics teacher went to school for mechanical engineering because he believed that wind was the future. He left the field because he realized that wind could not sustain a large portion of society's energy demand. Nuclear energy output is not only high, but controllable and dependable. RPI requires students take a series of classes in the field of humanities. Many of the nuclear engineering students choose to focus on sustainability for these classes. The people that are gathered here today share common values. We want clean energy. My own grandmother protested a construction of a nuclear power plant back in the day. After a long conversation with her, she now supports my pursuit of this sustainable energy source. The key to improvement is understanding. Today, I hope I have helped more people understand the brilliance of nuclear power. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do we have anyone left from Group K and Group L?
Owen Carmachina.
I would like to thank the organizers of this public inquiry of the draft statement of New York's energy policy. For some context, I'm Owen Carmacino, a graduate student of nuclear engineering at RPI. I'm a lifelong New York resident, and I live not far from the shutdown Indian Point nuclear power plant. I'm here to show support for the state's confidence in the nuclear power, its ability to produce clean energy in an ever-changing New York. The state is committed to a clean energy plan with a focus on renewables, but studies show that renewables alone are not enough, due to the sheer redundancy required for a grid comprised entirely of renewables. Energy prices have almost doubled on average for the average New Yorker since the shutdown of Indian Point. If the current energy plan, along with the shutdown of Indian Point, has gotten us here, then why continue? This is where nuclear energy can shine, as a complement to renewables, and with current federal support, now is the time to strike. Nuclear energy is still a very underdeveloped industry, even with all the energy that it does produce for the nation. And with enough federal and state support, it can grow into a juggernaut. To have clean energy and to keep New York prosperous, to have good jobs and clean air. I thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Steve Hellman.
Hi, Steve Hellman, president of Stop Energy Sprawl, retired IT director. Stop Energy Sprawl is a statewide grassroots coalition of 50-plus community groups, local government officials, and professionals working to keep industrial wind and solar from bringing economic and environmental ruin and irreversible damage to the souls of our communities. We're all volunteer with no corporate funding. 2 minutes. 2 minutes to describe the devastation to rural communities from the conversion of hundreds of thousands of acres of forest and farmland to be replaced with the largest industrial facilities that our communities have ever seen. My county is targeted for enough utility-scale solar to cover the entire island of Manhattan. 2 minutes to remind you that it's an environmental travesty. New York plans to cover such Manhattans across the state with industrial solar at least 21 more times. That doesn't include the similar acreage for onshore wind or the environmental impacts of offshore wind or the huge banks of battery storage that wind and solar require because they're not reliable, especially in places where electric use is high. Nor does it talk to the massive amounts of material that must be mined, refined, manufactured, imported, transported, and constructed on those acres, burning fossil fuels at every step. 2 minutes to testify to the poor conduct, sloppiness, and high-handedness of the developers, and to highlight the state siting authorities' willful blindness to their actions, and to point out this same siting authority's mandate is to force these industrial facilities on our communities, ignoring our self-determination, our local laws, and comprehensive plans. New York State has forgotten about these communities, many of which are DACs. There are no energy plan hearings in the southern tier, the Mohawk, Schoharie, Champlain valleys, and most every other area hit hard by the rush to please the wind and solar industry. Here ends my 2 minutes speaking for our communities. Any plan that continues to support their targeting and their institutional disenfranchisement is not a plan that serves all New Yorkers. Please ensure our communities are not forgotten. Thank you.
Allison Samuel.
Hi, I'm Allison Samuel. I work for the Sierra Club. Sierra Club is the nation's oldest and largest grassroots environmental organization, and we have about 40,000 members here in New York State. I wanted to start by thanking the State Energy Planning Board for remaining committed to achieving the goal of 9 gigawatts of offshore wind in New York. Offshore wind is reliable, affordable, and uniquely positioned to meet the demands in downstate New York. I urge the state to use this time of federal uncertainty to build on past progress in offshore wind and invest in the local infrastructure needed for this industry, including transmission, ports, and manufacturing. Unfortunately, I found many aspects of the plan to be disappointing. The New York State Climate Action Council already prepared a thoughtful and comprehensive scoping plan at the end of 2022. It mapped out actions necessary to achieve New York's climate mandates. Not only has New York failed to act on the majority of scoping plan recommendations over the past 3 years, the draft energy plan drops most of the scoping plan's concrete recommendations. The failure of the state energy plan to incorporate the recommendations of the scoping plan is not just poor policy, it's also unlawful. As the climate leadership, I should have abbreviated, CLCPA mandates that the state energy plan reflect these recommendations. And finally, while the pace of renewable energy development has been slower than planned, the shortfall of clean energy has been exacerbated by the increased load growth forecasts. To some extent, these forecasts are influenced by planned electrification of buildings and vehicles, which is great, but there's also a reflection of new cryptocurrency mining facilities, data centers, and AI. The state should not prioritize or subsidize cryptocurrency or data centers. Large energy users should pay their fair share for the energy and grid infrastructure they require, ensure the energy they consume is renewable and compliant with New York's climate mandates, and ensure that they are not siphoning clean energy that would otherwise be delivered to other New York ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wesley Patron.
I and my adjacent neighbor have been in the process of attempting to have a joint solar array built on our property in the town of East Greenbush. I understand that ORS is seeking new rules for permitting renewable energy and transmission projects. I would like you to consider that the RAPID Act should contain the following modifications to the Act. That considering OR's New York State clean energy goals, ensuring 70% renewable electricity by 2030 will not be met under the current processes, that smaller projects of 5 megawatts be permitted. This will enable landowners with smaller parcels to participate in meeting OR's goals for clean energy. This also enables landowners who may have land use of marginal value to receive income from their project. With the understanding that local communities have zoning that solar projects must adhere to, a provision be added to the RAPID Act to enable ORS to overrule local municipal solar zoning where ORS landowners and local municipalities can come to an agreement that said solar project will have minimal environmental and siting impact because of its location. We would appreciate your attention and consider to this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Juliet Tonnell.
Good evening. I'm a material science engineering student at Cornell University, and I'm a co-founder of the first pro-nuclear advocacy group at Cornell. Firstly, I'm really excited and I'm super inspired by the fact that the state is beginning to address nuclear, especially with the backlash that it often gets. Nonetheless, I believe the New York Energy State Plan needs to fully integrate nuclear power at a higher capacity, especially with our growing energy demands, with the rise of artificial intelligence. Data centers' energy needs are predicted to grow by 130%. And for this, we need a reliable, a clean, and an efficient energy source. As a student researcher, I've been working a lot with agrivoltaic system, and I'm a supporter of solar power, wind, geothermal, and other renewables. However, I've also learned about their limitations. And with our growing energy demands, they simply won't be enough. Realistically, they're just not enough to meet our energy needs. And when it comes down to nuclear, pro-environmentalists are often split into anti-nuclear or pro-nuclear, and that shouldn't be the case. It comes down to fossil fuels or nuclear, and nuclear is a cleaner and the safer option. The climate crisis is urgent, and we need to get away from fossil fuels as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to check and see if there's anyone who registered to speak tonight who didn't have an opportunity. No, I'll then turn it back to Chair Harris.
Thank you very much, Nora. Thank you all for the comments and for coming out tonight. I certainly do appreciate it, and I want you to know that certainly we as a State Energy Planning Board take your feedback very seriously as we seek to finalize this plan. I will just ask if my fellow planning board members have any comments to provide.
First, I want to thank the NYSERDA team as well as our Department of Environmental Conservation teams, including our ECOs here tonight, for helping to arrange this really important discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, for your really thoughtful comments. This was a really important, I was going to say conversation, but we didn't talk much. It was really wonderful to hear everyone's perspective this evening and appreciated the thoughtful comments that we heard. We look forward to incorporating them in the final draft.
Yeah, thank you everyone for taking the time to come out tonight. Obviously a lot of conflicting viewpoints, but what was common in every speaker's comments was the passion behind how you felt. So it was really important for us to hear that, and I thank you for putting your thoughts together and sharing them with us. I know it will be impactful as the board deliberates on the final plan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I would just echo the comments of my colleagues. Appreciate the passion, but also I've got 2 pages of notes here. Appreciate the comments that were made. Thank you.
Well, thank you again. If you see the screen here, there are additional opportunities to comment, including via in writing or by attending another public hearing, of which there are 6. These comments are being accepted through October 6, 2025, and can be submitted through our online form, email, or postal mail as shown on the slide. As you can see here, you can also provide comments at another hearing. Our next hearing is a virtual hearing online this Saturday at 11 a.m. You can find the meeting link and other details on our State Energy Plan's website. And I will share my thanks for the entire team for a very effective hearing, and I wish you a great evening. Thank you again.